I feel that, like, the way you're speaking to me, it's kind of like, I know you said that you had to say those things, but it's here, and I've already said it to the special victims yesterday, but there's, like, ideas in my head.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid to say it out loud.
Where are you, ma'am?
Please just don't my parents.
Ma'am, calm down. What?
Some people broke into our house and they just showed all his money.
Okay, ma'am, where are you? What?
Avenue.
Avenue Road.
Yes.
Can you spell the street name for me, please?
Dad.
When a terrified young woman calls the police to report a home invasion and murder, few people would ever suspect her of dishonesty. But with horrific crimes like this, things aren't often as simple as they seem. On the 8th of November 2010, 3 armed men stormed into the Pan family home in the affluent suburban district of Unionville in Markham, Ontario. They brandished their guns at Jennifer Pan's terrified parents, Han and Bick, and ransacked the house, demanding all the money they had. After grabbing all the valuables they could find, the burglars forced Bick and Han into the basement, where both of them were shot several times. Though Bick was killed instantly, Han narrowly survived his wounds and was rushed to Markham Stouffville Hospital, later being airlifted to a trauma unit at Sunnybrook Hospital, Toronto. When she first made contact with authorities, Jennifer Pan behaved exactly as anyone would expect. She was in a state of shock and extreme distress, though she managed to maintain her composure while recounting her version of events. Later, investigators would uncover holes in Jennifer's story, which showed that she wasn't the innocent victim she seemed to be, and had in fact planned the murder as part of a cold-blooded scheme to get a payout from her parents' life insurance.
Now I want you to sort of take yourself back to earlier on today, yesterday, meaning the 8th of November.
Like most witness interviews, Jennifer's began with a detective asking her to recount her experience of the day of the murder. From the beginning, Jennifer's behavior appears to be inconsistent with the harrowing experience she's just had. Early on in the interview, she bizarrely refers to the intruders as gentlemen, behaving much more like a person reciting a rehearsed statement rather than slowly coming to terms with a living nightmare.
And then, for some reason, I think one of the gentlemen asked my father if he had money in his wallet and where his wallet was. They kept all the lights off on the main floor. The only time there was light was when they opened the fridge door to see if they could find where my mom's purse was.
Here, we see Jennifer recounting the actions of the thieves who broke into her house, held her at gunpoint, and murdered her mother. Though she certainly appears to be upset, she manages to maintain her composure to a remarkably high level. Considering that this was mere hours after the home invasion, she's able to recall the events calmly and logically, without weeping or blurting out details in a more distressed or disordered fashion. This immediately arouses the suspicion of the detective. Throughout this initial interview, Jennifer is able to approach her situation with the same strange degree of calmness, often switching back to almost theatrical displays of sadness, as if she's abruptly remembering the role that she's meant to play.
Basically, they had made the first round, or pop, and they had said, okay, that's enough. Let's go.
Here, even while Jennifer remembers hearing the sound of her own parents being shot in the basement, she shows a strange detachment to the course of events, speaking more like she'd seen the events from afar rather than being at the center of them. While Jennifer was still an innocent victim on paper, investigators were quickly forming doubts about what she was saying. Everything could have just ended here, but because of the small inconsistencies she showed, Jennifer was called in for another interview just 2 days later so the investigators could clear any doubt they might have. Little did they know that this decision was the best they have made in their entire career. In her next interview, a visibly more nervous Jennifer is asked to recount her version of the crime a second time. This is ostensibly so that the investigators can verify further details about what happened. But the detectives in charge of the case are covertly building a case against the supposed victim. It's not long before Jennifer makes her first big mistake.
And you're now on the ground level, Are you on the floor or on the
I'm
sitting on the
on
stair?
the floor. I'm sitting on the floor.
All right, where are your hands?
They had tied my hands,
So let's
as
go-
I said.
Up until this point, Jennifer's reliving of the events had been consistent with her earlier statements. Here, she slips up by failing to mention that she had been tied up before she was brought downstairs.
You're now bound to the railing. Can you show me? Can you stand up and turn around and tell me? Just show on the camera how your hands are bound.
The detective soon hones in on this detail, asking the logical question of how she was able to make the 911 call with her hands bound. Perhaps by sheer luck, Jennifer is able to stand up and demonstrate a movement where she's physically able to make the call and shout down into her phone.
And how do you make the phone call? 911. And do you talk down like that?
Yes, I'm yelling at the phone like this.
Though this part of Jennifer's story is just about feasible, she soon gives the detectives another inconsistency to work off of, recounting what happened after the intruders left the house.
Once the door closed, I heard my father. He ran up the stairs and all I could hear was moaning. God. Once I heard him starting to move, that's when I pulled out the phone and I was trying to call 911.
The investigators know that the chronology here isn't accurate. On the recording of the 911 call, we can hear the exact moment where she realizes her dad has survived the attack, prompted by his panicked cries from somewhere far away from her. At this point, the investigators' line of questioning changes, delving deep into Jennifer's past and asking her about her personal life. This is where she reveals a hostile and tumultuous relationship with her parents, characterized by their high academic expectations of her and excessive involvement in her relationships bordering on abuse.
Did your mom know that you weren't going to university?
No.
And from 17 to 20, 21, they didn't know about the relationship.
Through their interviews, detectives soon learned that Jennifer had lied constantly to her parents as a reaction to their extremely overbearing method of parenting. She had forged her high school report cards, then an acceptance letter from the University of Toronto. She asked her parents' permission to stay near the campus with a friend, when in reality she was staying with Daniel Wong, her on and off boyfriend and an active marijuana dealer who her parents had explicitly forbidden her from seeing years earlier. Her parents eventually found out that she'd been seeing Wong behind their backs and gave her an ultimatum: either cut all contact with Wong and only leave the house to pursue her education, or be disowned. After a lifetime of living under impossible expectations, this was the last straw that pushed Jennifer over the edge. With the help of Daniel Wong, Jennifer enlisted the help of two men, David Milvaganam and Eric Hardy, to stage a violent burglary, instructing them to ransack the home and murder her parents. Jennifer would unlock the front door to allow them entry. The wanton brutality with which the burglars attacked Jennifer's parents, compared to the fact that she'd been left unscathed, would become a focal point for the detectives heading the investigation. After building a rapport with the suspect, the detectives are closing in on a point where they can pull the trigger by confronting Jennifer about how she'd been lying to them. At this point, Jennifer's father had recovered from a comatose state and had been able to give investigators his own version of events, which conflicted with his daughter's. This was mostly centered around his recollection that she wasn't tied up at all and had been walking around freely while speaking to the supposed intruders.
Now, do you think there's any reason why they tied you up and didn't tie your parents up?
I don't know.
And does it make sense that they would leave a witness behind? If they were going to kill somebody? Does that make sense?
I guess
Now, what we need to get down to here today, Jen, is what really happened. You need to tell me what went on, yeah? When did you first start planning this? When was the final straw? What was the final straw?
With enough information to know that Jennifer was involved in the crime, all that's left to do is to extract the precise details of her involvement. Jennifer continues to lie here and avoid incriminating questions as much as possible. It's a similar situation to when she was first brought in for questioning, with the investigators aiming to lock her into as convoluted a lie as possible and keep laying on the pressure until she finally admits the truth, that she enlisted a supposed hitman in a plot to kill her parents.
Okay. So who did you get to do this then? You have to tell me, Jen.
I don't know who he is. I just got his number.
You've told so much of the truth, you're just not telling the final portion. This isn't even half-truths anymore. This is 3/4, okay? The only thing missing is 1/4 of the truth, okay?
After another hour of painstaking work to get a straight admission from Jennifer, she still refuses to confess her full involvement in the crime. Despite her best efforts to skirt around the details, the investigators still have enough evidence to charge her.
I need you to listen close to me, okay, Jen? At this point in the investigation, okay, I'm going to be arresting you for murder, okay? Also attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder.
The interrogation footage you just saw would prove to be a deciding factor in Jennifer's later trial. She continued to deny her culpability and pleaded not guilty in her eventual trial. Her and her 4 co-conspirators were given a life sentence without the possibility of parole for 25 years. Jennifer, now 34 years old, is still serving her sentence at the Grand Valley Institution for Women in Kitchener, Ontario. She will become eligible for parole in November 2035 when she is 49 years old.